I am Toastmaster Amana Alkali, and fortunate enough, I am reviewing the second chapter of our book of the month, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I must comment that this book is awesome. It's wonderful. I'll advise that if you haven't gone through it, you should take personal time and go through the book. So I'll be sharing my screen now with lessons I learned from the book. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Okay. So dear Toastmasters, I am reviewing chapter 2 of the book, and chapter 2 says don't take anything personally. I must commend the great work of the first reviewer who led us through the first agreement and said that we have to be impeccable with our words. Now, in the second chapter, don't take anything personally, Don Miguel Ruiz takes it further. And reading from the first chapter, he says that every other thing in the remaining 3 chapters spring up from the first chapter, which says that you should be impeccable with your words. The second chapter, Don't Take Anything Personally, emphasizes keenly on other people's actions and whatever they do to you as their own perceptions and their beliefs. So it doesn't mean whatever they say or do to you is who you are. And I'll give you an example. Don Miguel Ruiz mentions in the book that if someone tells you you're stupid, you shouldn't take it to heart, because it's a reflection of what they are, not what you are. It is when you take it to heart that you make it a reflection or a subject of who you are. And by doing that, you're going to affirm the wrong thing to yourself. And he also mentions that when you affirm the wrong words to yourself, you are doing or giving to yourself what is called black magic. I'm not sure any one of us would want to give himself or herself black magic. So we delve into what I learned. What I learned from the second chapter, I have outlined here in 4 steps. First, people's actions reflect their own reality. Most times you discover when you interact with people, how they talk to you or how they feel comes from a place of depth. It comes from a place where they understand things to be. And at other times, you discover again that people transfer aggression. So when they're coming from somewhere and they have had maybe a mishap or a quarrel with another person, they can transfer aggression to you. Don Miguel Ruiz is saying that these actions don't define you, and you shouldn't take whatever someone does in the negative personally. You shouldn't use another person's actions or words to define yourself. Number 2, avoid unnecessary suffering. By the time you put people's thoughts or words as your center point and you take it personally, you are thinking about me, me, me. You are telling yourself that everything is about me. And then you put yourself in a position where you suffer unnecessarily. I'll tell you one thing, and I have noticed it over time. Sometimes people tell you things just to get frustration off their minds, and the moment they tell you, they even forgot or they forget that they've told you something like that. So you need to learn to detach yourself and not take things personally so that you can avoid putting yourself in unnecessary suffering. In the words of Seneca, he says, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Now, the third point is you should build immunity from criticism and praise, right? This is not saying that you shouldn't take into consideration other people's words. Rather, it is saying that when you stop taking things personally, you can be objective and then align yourself with the right words that mean something to you. You can objectively look at a situation and say, okay, this person that is saying I'm the best, does this person really mean it, or are they flattering me? Again, when it comes to criticism, you begin to see that when someone comes to criticize you and the person is not constructive, When you don't take things personally and you are objective, it's going to give you a balance point to understand that whatever criticism that is given, sometimes people are maybe jealous or envious. So you need to understand that your work may not be a direct reflection of that criticism. And finally, I learned that there's power in self-knowledge. Now, by recognizing self-awareness and emotional control, which you do when you don't take things personally, you will discover yourself. There's power in self-knowledge. And from the early philosophers, people like Aristotle, people like Socrates, they say that an unexamined life is not worth living. So it's very important that you know yourself. It's very important that you don't rely on what other people tell you before you believe in who you are, before you tell yourself the right words. So don't take things personally. Finally, the key lesson I learned from the second chapter, which says don't take anything personally, is that the value of detachment from other people's opinions and how that detachment can lead to emotional freedom and resilience. So when you detach from other people's opinion, you begin to see in truth and in objectivity that you can have emotional freedom and emotional resilience. You can sit down and criticize yourself objectively, or better still, you can sit down and look at what you're doing to say, okay, am I going in the right direction? So if you should take anything home from Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The 4 Agreements, stemming from the second chapter, the second agreement, which is the third chapter, I'll tell you, don't take anything personally and learn to detach yourself from other people's opinions of you so that you can objectively put yourself where you're supposed to be. Also, I'll tell you, don't feed yourself black magic, because when you take other people's opinion of you and you begin to put them into consideration, you're feeding yourself black magic and you're telling yourself that you're not worth who you are or what you are.